City work session will
Everybody likes you.
come to order. I guess,
Put your thing on.
yeah. Yeah, it's on. It's on. Mark, do you want to? Go ahead.
Everybody here, the president, okay? Can we turn the volume up just a little bit maybe, or see what happens?
Is it okay now?
Yeah, there's no vol.
There is no
I don't know
volume.
how to. It's all a whole bunch of slides and.
Okay. Okay.
I
The
could
work
shut
session.
one of the
We'll
fans.
stand close, or we'll sit closer. For me, I'll stand closer, but everybody else will sit closer.
Okay, Mark, go ahead. You could make your presentation.
Good evening. I'm here to discuss what was said first in the article this past Sunday in the paper regarding the condemned properties, and also what to do about the blighted properties and nuisance properties in the city. First, in the article called City to Utilize New Blight Law from April 13th, 2011, it says, refutes what has been said by the mayor and his administration in regards to what was written at the time. Wait, hold on. Okay. In the article, City to Utilize New Blight Law from April 13th, 2011, of the Standard Speaker, it says that the Committee for the Blighted Property Review Committee will work continuously in all sections of the city, but its initial targeted focus will be in the area from Cedar Street eastward to Hazleton General Hospital and from Broad Street south to Noble Street in the Heights. Members of the and officers of the vacant property review committee included John Ackerman, Chairman Lenchak of the Planning Commission, Vice Chairman Chris Puza of Hazleton City Council, Jerry Palermo, and Rich Salo. When a property is identified as blighted and each step of the law is exhausted, the property would come before the Vacant Property Review Committee, where it is officially certified as blighted. The City Redevelopment Authority has the option of taking possession of an officially blighted property for rehabilitation or demolition as grant money became available. This showed that the mayor knows the composition of who belongs on the vacant/blighted property review committee, and from the people that were on the blighted property review committee at the time shows that it was composed of some of the mayor's political allies, which explains why much wasn't done at the time to suppress the blight from continuing. In the meeting minutes I obtained from the Redevelopment Authority from 2011 to 2013 proves that the certification was not done correctly by state law. Here's the process by which blight is supposed to be certified. For a redevelopment authority to acquire blighted vacant property under the urban redevelopment law, it must be a blighted property review committee to evaluate whether the property meets the definition of blight based on the criteria in the statute. If the owner refuses to make corrective repairs on a property identified as blighted, the redevelopment authority may proceed to condemn the property after conferring with the appropriate planning commission and blighted property review board. The BPRC, with representation from the city council, mayor, and the planning commission and the redevelopment authority, is responsible for determining and certifying properties as blighted, making them eligible for the redevelopment authority acquisition. The state identifies 11 criteria as blight, and a property needs to meet only one condition to qualify as blighted. Under Title 35, Section 1712.1, a blighted property in Pennsylvania must meet one of the following 11 criteria. 1, public nuisance. 2, attractive nuisance to children. 3, accumulation of trash and debris or haven for vermin. 4, unfit for human habitation. 5, fire hazard. 6, lack of water, gas, or other utilities. 7, tax delinquent for 2 years and vacant. 8, vacant and not code compliant within a year of receiving notice of violations. Abandoned property with municipal liens exceeding 150% of value, defective or unusual condition of title, and environmentally hazardous conditions or contamination. Now, how do we pay for this? Condemnation can be paid through by community CD block grants or NSP funds if the acquisition of the property will address serious public health or safety issue, or through general operating budget funds. The latter stages of eminent domain are costly. Early hearings and notice to owners are not. But for the tool to be used effectively, the redevelopment authority must be prepared to follow through and to complete the condemnation when the owner fails to take action. What challenges will it solve? This tool allows the redevelopment authority to gain clear title and control of blighted properties where blight negatively affects surrounding communities. Although eminent domain power should be used sparingly because of the high cost and relative unpopularity with the public, it has been very effective for motivating the owners of the blighted properties to make corrective repairs. The process provides owners with multiple notices of potential condemnation and almost a year to retain their properties by bringing them up to code. When the fear of losing the property is not sufficient incentive to bring property up to code, the redevelopment authority will pay fair market value for the property based on an appraisal. Now, what is needed to use this law effectively? The process to condemn a property takes 12 to 18 months from initial identification. After a municipality decides that a property may meet the definition of blight, it sends a warning letter to the owner. If the owner fails to respond adequately, a notice of determination hearing is sent to the owner. At the hearing, municipality presents evidence of blight to the Blighted Property Review Committee, and the owner may respond. The BPRC then holds a blight determination vote. If the BPRC determines that the property is blighted, a determination order is sent to the owner, and that the certification hearing will be held within 60 days. At a hearing, the BPRC will vote to decide whether to certify the property as blighted. If the property is declared blighted, a certification order is sent to the owner. Next, the redevelopment authority issues a declaration of taking and a statutory offer to pay a specific amount for the property. The property owner has 20 days to object. If the owner offers no objection, the redevelopment solicitor goes to the court to pay just compensation or the fair market value of the property and is granted a writ of possession. If the owner objects at that point, the case moves to the county court of common pleas. And if the owner does not object, the municipality owns the property once the check is sent to the property owner. If the owner objects to this at this later date, the complaint goes to the board of views, but the owner may dispute only the fair market value of the property. Now, what policies and practices will increase our chances of successfully using this tool? Provided repeated notice to the owner at each stage of the process, so that the owner has every opportunity to come forward and care for the property or transfer it to the responsible owner. A few cases where it's necessary to complete the condemnation process, it's essential to condemn the property and incur the cost in order to create a clear and consistent threat that will compel other owners to be accountable. Once properties are condemned, they should be transferred to a responsible new owner or rehabilitated or redeveloped. Acquisition is costly, so is condemnation. Must be deployed strategically. Allentown and its redevelopment authority devote priority attention to properties that have been declared unfit for human habitation, properties located around the center city neighborhoods adjacent to its near downtown, properties in areas where city's inspectors are conducting inspections so that redevelopment authority acquisitions can complement the inspection process as needed. Now, there are other measures that municipalities have, other tools that are being given to municipalities every year to combat blight. A few of them have been coming from the State House and Senate Urban Affairs Committee. One of them was passed a few weeks ago by Senator Argyle, which would allow for the municipalities to, after 3 or more code violations, serious code violations, the chief can go to PennDOT to have the property owner's license suspended for 90 days. Now, this bill is currently in the the State House of Representatives. It is Bill, if I can get that out here, Senate Bill 1420. And there is another bill from the House, which is House Bill 2120, which will be amending Act 90 that would allow for the closing of the loophole for the out-of-state landlords to use a dummy corporation or a private trust or a property manager to hide behind. So I think those measures that were given to us by the state and other laws that are on the books can be used in conjunction with this in order to expedite these dealing with these condemned properties and vacant properties. I look forward to any questions you may have.
You said the bills aren't passed yet, as of yet. They're still in the process of going through review.
Well, one was sent to the governor's desk, which is the code enforcement bill that would allow for grants to be provided for for code enforcement training. That was passed to the governor's desk, but he vetoed the funding of that because that was part of the veto of that budget for the funding of the budget that was.
In other words, if we would send code, it's now not going to be paid for according to the veto.
Not currently, no. They would have to send an appropriation. They would have to pass an appropriation measure for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, listening to your presentation, it sounds, and I jotted a number of organizations down here, and you know what, I'm going to go back to something that I've said is a broken record. The city of Hazleton is not, the administration is not the police department only, and is not the fire department. Listening to what you're saying over here, I'm listening to a blighted property committee, zoning committee, planning committee, code enforcement, police to a degree, and the redevelopment authority. If it sounds like there is no silver bullet and there is no special pill. All of these committees need to work in conjunction with one another and communicate with one another. And if that were being done, with the new laws and the new powers that are being given, that each organization stays up on information-wise, is the real direction that we need to be taking. But it's not a quick fix, but it's a fix. And that's what we need to be doing.
Yes.
Would you please forward some of that information to us so that we can digest it and that we could start to put some of this together? Because we've got an administration that right now is not attentive, I don't think, to at least half of these groups that we're here talking about right now.
I would love to do that, and I will do that. I would like to.
That's not an affront on anybody here, but I don't think that the fact of the matter is that this administration and the groups that we're talking about here need to be put together to get something done and fix this city.
I agree wholeheartedly with that, Dr. Sosar, because, I mean, every year since 2011, 150 properties go vacant. And we have a serious condemned problem as well, because those properties that are condemned and hazardous present a clear and present danger to the public safety of the community. So I think that this is not just something that you could just brush aside or blow off whenever you get around to it.
Okay, so what it comes down to is that you've got to understand that there are many fires going on within this city that this council and the good people here are trying to deal with. If we could use your expertise to provide us with information that we can decipher and use to try to put policies together, that would be a big help. Okay? And
Yes.
that's what I'm going to ask you to do, please.
Okay, that's fine. I would ask this council to look at, in order to facilitate and expedite these, dealing with these properties, I think that it would be best to work with the people that are on the boards, and if they don't understand how the process works, that they should get information or training as to what to do, because why were they put on these boards in the first place?
Well, and the training would come from where?
Well, the training would come from, there's the local...
TED?
Well, DCED would be one. The local government services that the governor's office provides would be another. There's vast amounts of information.
Okay, as long as we can get that information to the proper authorities on the boards and the commissions, then it becomes their responsibility. If they're going to do the job that they have been assigned to do, then it would seem to me that doing due diligence to become informed about what it is that they need to do becomes part of the answer.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't solve all problems, but that at least is saying, look, you want to know more about what your specific job tasks are, here you go. Here's where you can go and learn about them.
Yes. And when it was done previously, and I have an example of that from the Planning Commission meeting that was held February 23rd of 2005, which there was a plan from the Hazleton Redevelopment Authority to designate lots that were part of a redevelopment plan, and Mr. Doherty at the time reviewed the process to declare those properties to be taken by eminent domain. And this was including the former Powell building as well as the Reinhardt building and adjacent empty lot. So, I mean, it was done previously in the past, and there is a plan that was in place. Now, what happened with that plan? Did they do anything with it? Did it just sit on the shelf? I mean, who knows? I mean, I think it just sat there because nobody did anything since that time. So I think what needs to be done is that process which I described, which is not my rules, it's not something I made up, this is state law.
Okay.
This is found in the urban redevelopment law and passed by the state. So why have a redevelopment authority if you're not going to follow the law that governs that authority?
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
You have any question, Jeff? Any other issues for our work session? Go ahead.
Dee Deacus Hazleton. Didn't we buy our the light poles and the lights back when Sammy Monticello was the city administrator? We took out a big loan.
Yeah.
And then how come we have this agreement with PP&L to put stuff on these poles if we own them?
We'll have to talk to and ask Frank about that when it comes up on the agenda. Her
Okay,
question is, did
also-
you hear her, Frank? Her question is, if we own the poles from PP&L, if we own the poles from PP&L that were bought back when,
We don't own the poles.
because there was,
Poles that were, I'm not saying we don't own poles. I'm saying we do not own the poles that we're looking to put this equipment on, especially the ones on Alder Street. They're all PPL poles. Without this agreement in place, PPL will not even examine the poles to allow the city to legally hang any attachment on any of their poles.
I understand that. What she's saying is we had purchased them at one point in time. Come up to the podium by D and let her do it again so that you can hear.
Okay, years ago when Sam Monticello was our city administrator, we took out a big bond that bought all the street lights and poles.
Streetlights.
And the poles.
Right. These are not streetlight poles. These are PPL poles. They're the wooden poles that don't have arc lights on all of them, that carry the power lines, that PPL will not.
Are these
come
telephone
out-
poles? Or telephone poles, they're not the street poles.
Well, if
They're
they're
telephone
telephone
poles.
So
poles,
the
then they wouldn't be
difference-
with PP&L.
They're telephone poles that PPL uses.
PPL owns the poles, even though the telephone company and the cable companies run, can you hear me, Lisa?
Yes.
Even though the telephone company and the cable companies run the lines across them, they're PPL poles, and they're marked PPL poles. And the fact is that PPL will not come out and authorize them without this agreement in place. Doesn't cost us anything.
Okay, well, now,
I cannot continue with my camera project.
right.
Right.
Just let's clarify this. So you're saying the poles that have the light extensions with nothing to do with the power sources, cable television or anything, those poles were purchased by the city with that loan?
I'm not saying that.
Okay, what are you
I
saying?
have no idea. I know from the city engineer that there are a number of poles that the city owns. And there are a huge number of poles that the city does not own. And
Don't we only purchased part of the poles?
Well,
You know,
the street,
I
the
have
street
no
lighting
idea who
poles, but
purchased
that's,
and who didn't purchase
I think you
The
might
city
be
purchased
talking
it.
about the telephone poles, the wooden ones.
The wooden ones are commonly referred to as telephone poles, but they carry power.
Yeah, they do
Right.
everything, yeah, they do a
I
lot of
know that the
stuff.
city owns the metal street light, the metal arc lights.
Yeah,
Know
we
that
own
for a
those
fact.
poles.
These are not metal.
We don't own the wooden
Right.
poles.
And the wooden poles are PPL poles that PPL has to have a signed agreement in
Yeah,
place.
they hold their power lines, or string their power lines and the phone lines too.
Now, some of the poles have an arc light hanging from them. We own the arc light.
We own the pole.
All I can tell you is that PPL knows which poles they own and which ones they don't. I'm not saying that the city does not own some poles in the city of Hazel. I'm simply saying that without an agreement signed from the city with PPL, they will not come out to examine the pole to give us permission to hang something. If I don't have that, I can't go, and not only I, but nowhere else in the city can we do anything else attempting to hang something on a pole without a signed pole attachment agreement. The unique part about this is you would have thought that there would have been a pole attachment agreement in place with PPL because we hang things on poles all the time. There is no agreement on record, so maybe shame on me for following the procedures, but we have to have one on record to do this.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, you okay, Dee? We understand?
Yeah, I think maybe we should get a inventory of the poles we do own.
We have that.
Do we?
Yeah,
Oh, I'll do a request for information. and get it.
absolutely.
Yeah, could you
yeah.
give us a copy of it too as
Sure,
well?
I mean, on it, keep moving the mic, sorry.
It's okay.
I only know that there's an inventory because I had to try and figure out myself, well, which poles do we own, which poles don't we own? Some of them are Verizon poles, some of them are PPL poles, other are city-owned metal arc light poles, but I know there's an inventory.
Oh, okay,
Well,
that's fine.
Dr. Sosa has a
Are-
question.
Are we therefore in violation of any kind of, for what we've put up, no, Chief, for what we put up in terms of flags and for what we put up in terms of Christmas decorations
No.
and all that so far on any of these poles?
No. According to PPL, and PPL, I'm dealing with
So
three
they are
people from
PPL.
PPL. I don't know what, you're talking about the downtown poles?
No, I'm talking about things like Alter Street.
Right. According to PPL.
Okay, and I've also a follow-up to that. Once you do that, is this part of a holdup? Because I got to be honest with you, on Alter Street so far, from what I've observed, and you got to admit that I'm looking from quite a lower angle than most people do. I've not seen anything in terms of the cameras yet. Is this
You're not
part
going to see
of
something
the?
for a while.
Is this part of the delay that we need to get into so that we can eventually get to those?
Right, we're working on the infrastructure. They're going to be running cabling. The antennas from City Hall will do that and then come out to Alter Street and 15th Street and Diamond and Cedar. But I cannot put a single camera on any pole or a transmitter without allowing PPL to come out first and say, yes, it's authorized, no, it's not. So without this signed agreement, there will never be a camera on Alder Street.
In conjunction with this, now I know we have signage on our poles, all right? Was there ever an agreement with PP&L as far as?
That's not the type of pole attachment that PPL is talking about. And to sort of roll the answer to your question into the answer of your first part of your question, according to the woman that I'm dealing with PPL, PPL has gone to a new computer system and they're updating records, and they've changed the verbiage on their pole attachment agreement. And so they're making every municipality have a new pole attachment agreement signed, even if you had an old one in the past. Which is why my answer to you, Doctor, is no, we're not in violation, because what they're telling me is even if you had an old one, you must get a new one on record. And so this new one on record, fortunately, unfortunately for me, I'm the first person in the city to want to hang something on a pole needing a new attachment.
Well, my question is, will this address signage as well on the PP&L poles? Anything that we put on the poles, this agreement, this would address it? So our signs are legal that are on a pole, for instance, no parking between 9 and 5 p.m., whatever.
Here's what I could tell you about PPL and what they explained to me. From the day that I applied for this application, moving forward, if we want to hang something on a pole, we're supposed to contact PPL and have them come out and assess the pole before we hang anything on a pole. That's moving forward. They're not saying anything that you already have existing is an issue. They're simply saying you must have a pole attachment agreement before we will come out and examine these poles.
Only because the street departments
Right.
here, you put signs on PP&L poles all the time, okay? So this is why I'm asking,
Right.
only so that they know what's going to happen and what they need to do,
Right.
okay?
Sure.
So maybe send the information to Frankie as well?
We discuss this every Tuesday at the staff meetings,
Okay.
but you're right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks.
That's okay. Okay. Next question on resolution 84. We have it that Mary Ellen Leib is our acting city administrator. Maybe that ought to be changed.
What one, Dee? What did you say?
Well, the date on it is 7/10/14. That's today, or yesterday. She wasn't our administrator yesterday.
What one are you looking at, Dee? I'm
The
sorry.
one about the red lights,
What was the number?
84. But if you're resubmitting it, don't you think we should have the proper names down? Well, then why does it have a submission date of 2014? July 10th, 2014. Okay.
What you're questioning is why is Mary Ellen's Leib's
Well, on the
name
very
that?
last page of that application, it says the submit date is 7/10/14. Shouldn't we correct our responsible person?
Frank, could you come up? I can't hear you.
This all grandfathered, and is that possibly the reason why, because of the date when all of this actually started, when she would have still been the acting director of administration? I understand what you're saying.
Oh, I agree. It
Because
probably
could
started
be
while she
now.
was in.
And I would rather have titles than names. That's one of the things that I've got a
Yeah, that we
bugaboo
were
about
gonna discuss.
a few of these things.
Right. And if the mayor has to sign it, that means we should have the right people inside as responsible person.
Yeah.
Because if they are supposed to be contacting her if there's a problem, she's long gone.
Right.
Yeah, and we agree. We talked about this, that we were thinking about titles instead, only because of the fact a number of years passed by since this transpired. The
Right.
administrator has changed, and it's a different ballgame now.
Right, okay, that was it.
person.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a work session. You could wait to the meeting
At the end
to
for
make
anything else?
contact.
No,
Yeah,
okay. No,
you
okay.
could. Yeah, we're gonna go into our
meeting.
regular meeting.
If
okay?
nothing else.
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 Regular meeting.
If
okay?
nothing